Hello, this is Deborah Atkinson. I am about to record a podcast with a 15-pound, fairly new puppy. Can you hear that? Yes. So there is no guest, although he thinks he's a guest. And Moses is currently running my life. He's wrestling with a towel and apparently losing. But that's better than chewing on cords, which is the alternative plan for here in the office. We are going to dive into these 5 menopause exercise research studies and make sure that you get clear and conscious ideas about how to improve your programming based on what I'm about to share. Now, I'm going to give you a little hint that this is also behind the scenes marketing. When you educate, you market in the best possible way, the no sleazy, no salesy, no pushy way that sets you up as the credible expert and authority. I mean, what could be better? You feel good about education, and I know you do. You're a teacher at heart, most likely. So when you use these things, you'll find that each of these 5 menopause exercise programming tips can be used to market with your live social media minutes, do videos as pitch sheets for local media appearances, radio or TV, and to develop new programs or tweak existing ones and be able to stay and stand out among your peers. All right, so I am Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to She Means Fitness Business, which is the division of Voice for Fitness, where I believe that you deserve consistent revenue from clients you love working with, and you want to be an inspirational example to other midlife women. I get it. But to do that, you do have to have a profitable health and fitness business. And the problem is often either a lack of traffic, not enough people seeing the things that you can do and how you can help, or you're not charging enough. Sometimes both of those. There's sometimes some things in between, but those are usually the biggest 2 needle movers. When we change those, we change your business, and often we change your life. And I'd love to help you. You can book a call to see if we're a good fit one-on-one. But right now, I want you to go and download the business scorecard that I created for health and fitness professionals. You can see at a glance where you need to implement things, where you have some in place, and immediately see this is what is keeping me stuck if you're having a struggle growing or you're on a plateau. Okay, so let's dive into this. We're going to start with number 1. The first one is a study, and this comes, and the science will be in the show notes, from Gerontology in 2021. So I'm going to deliver these in rapid fire, and here's what you need to know. This one is all about estrogen. So estrogen loss directly correlates to muscle protein synthesis loss. And as you know, but your clients may not identify with that term, muscle protein synthesis is mandatory in order to have an anabolic stimulus to avoid anabolic resistance, which happens to older adults. When estrogen levels tank, as for women in menopause, they do rapidly during that menopause transition, there is a huge need immediately, if they're not doing it, for either starting to strength train or increasing the intensity of their strength training if they've already been strength training. What they've done before is not going to keep getting them the results that they want. There's also an increased need for muscle protein synthesis coming from increased protein intake. So throughout the day, an adequate intake at each and every meal. Now, if you start with a high bolus at breakfast, you may not need as high at lunch because it's coming down, but it's not coming dramatically down. So you can either divide them evenly between meals, or you can have a big bolus at breakfast and at dinner time, just breaking your fast and prior to going into a fast. And that sometimes is enough as long as you bump it up again slightly in between. So the solution to overcome this estrogen drop is lifting heavier and or with more volume. And volume comes, by the way, by not increasing frequency, by increasing another set or increasing the weight and even decreasing the number of reps, but increasing the sets. And also from increasing the amount of protein eaten. So who needs that bigger slab of salmon or chicken or pork? The woman in midlife, not the young adult. male who's already in the prime and just has to look at it and gain lean muscle, but not her partner, but her. She's the one who needs it. Number two, this study comes from the Iran Journal of Public Health. It was published in 2021. Menopause programming tip: the greatest loss of lean muscle tissue, for reasons I just described, occurs when? During the early stage of perimenopause to the late stage of perimenopause. There's an increased loss or increase in the amount of sarcopenia by 27%. Now, there's no other phase where the loss occurs that dramatically within the phase. Now, definitely there's a bigger loss postmenopause early and postmenopause late. But what if we could change that loss and eliminate it or reduce the amount of muscle loss during perimenopause? We're not going to sustain those greater losses later. So the time to make the change is for women generally in the 40s. Now that's rough because some women hit menopause earlier. Some women don't hit it until much later. But generally, if you have a woman in her early 40s who is not lifting weights, who thinks she's going to Pilates and going to yoga and that's enough, you got to turn her around. This is a chance to have a conversation that will change her life and the trajectory of her 80s and her 90s. Not only that, but improve her body composition now and get ahead of bone density losses as well. So you're programming, what can you do? Get in front of audiences of women in their late 30s, their early 40s, and their late 40s, and give them specific reasons why at each phase they want to, based on what's happening to their physiology, they need to start now and how they need to start. Number three, greater volume during a single session versus greater volume in frequency. I alluded to this earlier, but listen, this provides greater muscle mass, greater strength, and greater endurance. This is really an important concept to consider. When volume is identical, comparing, say, 3 times a week with 2 sets of strength training, two times a week to 3 sets of strength training. That's just math, right? It's the same. But the latter, less frequency, just twice a week, but with more sets during those sessions, was far greater for gaining lean muscle strength and muscle mass. So pay attention to that, because another secondary reason for doing fewer workouts per week, allowing greater recovery between, and not sitting on the couch between. We're just saying those hard, intense strength training workouts, fewer between, with more time between, so that they can fully recover. They're not achy, they're not in pain, and they're fresher and they're getting more work done when they're at it. They also will tend to decrease any negative effects of adrenal insufficiency or cortisol problems. So your programming is to be different. Don't be the high frequency boot camp. Don't be the same as every other kid on the block. Start with lower frequency, increase volume by other means instead of more sessions per week. And rather than just go longer and longer sessions, you can do a 10 or 15 minute high quality session with volume if you plan it well. Teach her how to do that. She'll be a friend for life. That comes from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research in 2022. Number 4, if you've got a woman who's still ovulating, she still has a regular cycle. Now, look, it's a little bit less friendly to do this if a woman is irregular. And this is a challenge, but if a woman is still having a regular cycle, there is a definite time to lift heavy and a time to do agility moves and times not to. So here's the time. Plan the exercise with a woman's cycle, or you'll miss the opportunity to make fitness gains and decrease injury risk while you're at it. During week 2 or ovulation, that's about 10 or 14 days after a cycle starts, the bleed starts. That's the best time to lift heavy, and yet it's the absolute worst time to be doing agility with rapid directional changes of movement. And that is because the effects of estrogen, number 1, estrogen is a boost or bolster for muscle. So gaining strength is going to be easier if you give it more stimulus, more protein, heavier weights, and Your tendons are more rigid. So, what does that mean? Well, you can lift better because you've got this greater stability. It's like a strong foundation and frame in a house. But ligaments are more lax, and that's why the rapid directional change is not good. And if you combine rapid directional changes with lax ligaments and rigid tendons, you ever heard of a ruptured tendon or a ruptured Achilles tendon? Yeah, nobody wants to go there. So plan wisely. But also, what does that mean for women in menopause? Well, they don't cycle through that. But if you are tuned in to periodization and the concept of, let's have a 4-week cycle, and then let's have a 12-week, maybe macro cycle, and look at big picture, little picture. And within it, we have these undulating work harder, work a little harder, and recover. And we keep cycling through that so that the body never gets stale, static plateaus, never risks injury because we're always pushing, thinking we're going upstairs and we're going to avoid any need to rest or recover. That's crazy. And I think, a lot of people will say, well, I just let life, when life gets busy, I tend to miss. So I try to exercise every day. I think that's a bad plan, to tell you the truth. I think we need to set our priorities and dictate when we are going to do the plan. And yes, life will interrupt, but if you have a plan and you have a plan for your clients, things are going to go so much better. Create a program or a course teaching women how to train based not on your program starting, them fitting into it, but why not teach them how to do this for themselves? You think you don't have a friend for life if you do that? Do that with adolescents. Teach them how to train better. Teach them how to do their strength and conditioning better, no matter what season they're in. They may be in volleyball season, basketball season, whatever. But if you can train them so that they can work on their strength and their power and their explosive moves without getting hurt, do you think we'll see fewer ACL injuries in women? Potentially. And last but not least, number 5 is there are 3 solutions for overcoming sarcopenia or anabolic resistance. And I alluded to this one earlier, but that is the beauty of research. We're seeing research build upon research. So coming back to how do we overcome what happens, that muscle protein synthesis, because it is a chief mechanism for maintaining and gaining lean muscle. Estrogen's positive influence on muscle is removed at menopause or definitely reduced as it's happening. So what is left? What do we do when that's taken away? Resistance training, high quality protein at regular intervals throughout the day, and making sure you have high quality sources of animal protein, if possible, that have leucine and all the essential amino acids to support muscle gain. And then supplementation. So if you're working with somebody who's plant-based, who is not eating enough and skipping meals, supplementing not just with protein powder, but essential amino acid capsules or powder. Powder's not very tasty, in my opinion. Creatine is another one. And then last but not least, I would not lead with this, but branched chain amino acids. A woman who's not eating an adequate protein amount doesn't need to go to branched chain aminos. She needs all the essential amino acids first. So you've got to start with your foundation and build upward in order of importance of those things. So get used to this. If you need some help or want some help in establishing what does my client need, how do I know her priorities, the Flipping 50 Menopause Fitness Specialist is a great place to be. The Facebook group is a great place to ask questions, follow up on podcasts like this with me and with the knowledge that you're gaining from the specialist program. And if you're listening in October still, it's not too late. We're open. There's a very, very juicy special because it is menopause month. So what better month to promote the growing demand for trainers and health coaches who know more and who can go deeper with them. But we're also opening it up and giving you 2 trial months, 2 complimentary months to the Well Pros hot seats in masterminding mentor membership. 3 hot seat meetings per month. There's at least 1 CEU course complimentary every 6 months. And occasionally we will do half-day events so that we go over trainings specifically for you. Coming in, you get a part of a library that includes anything we've done so far, as long as you're a member, and you get access to the kickoff call. We actually start or have started October 14th, depending on when you're listening, but you get access to that 2-hour kickoff call to really get you into business mode and to help you ask good questions about how do I price my programs? How do I get the most value from every customer I have? So there's lots of ways to think about it, but you can go after more and more and more customers, or you can really take care of the customers you have by providing them more services and also gain more revenue from them by doing it. But they're more than happy to pay you for something that is helping them get the results that they want and potentially be that no one else has done for them. If we look at which of these three sources here matters most between resistance training, high quality protein from dietary protein, and supplementation, resistance training is number one. We need you, friends. So whether you are there as a health coach who is talking to them about how they do it, the frequency they do it, and not necessarily getting into the nitty gritty of the weeds of where's your knee over those toes, or you are a fitness trainer, we still need that guidance. A woman needs a quarterback and somebody there who's in the know. The research on this last one comes from Nutrition Metabolism. It was 2016, so it's one of the later ones. And I included it because even though it's not within the last few years and ultra recent, it is still one of the key and prevalent ones out there talking about longevity and sarcopenia avoidance. And it's still very key. Lots of resources for you in today's show notes, and you'll find that at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/5 menopause exercise programming tips. And what are you waiting for? The world needs you right now more than ever.